Welcome to Awakening, the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christian Strang, and today we are bringing you a very special episode. We have one of our Awakening, the podcast interview series happening at this time, and with that comes the amazing Anna Demouchet. We'll be introducing you to Anna's wisdom and gifts today. Anna Demouchet is a CDFA and is a multidimensional spiritual healer specializing in healing relationships and families, uncoupling and co-parenting, trauma-sensitive somatic healing, and holistic well-being in all aspects of life. She's a spiritual teacher, certified divorce financial analyst, sacred spirituality coach, and certified conscious uncoupling and co-parenting coach. Wow, Anna, welcome to Awakening the podcast. I'm so happy to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I am just overjoyed to be here. I have listened to you for, ever. So it's so fun to be on.
Oh, it's so great that we get to do this. So we're going to start where we always start with these interviews, which I love so much, which is sharing one of your awakening stories. Here on Awakening the podcast, we know that awakening is not a one-time event, that actually every day on earth provides us with opportunities to awaken more deeply to the true nature of this reality and the true nature of our individual spiritual missions, as well as our collective mission. So I'd love to hear whatever awakening story you feel called to share with us today. So I'm going to open it up to you to share about one of your awakenings.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, we all have many. This was probably my maybe third or fourth awakening. And what's really funny, is this was like well into my spiritual journey. Like in my 20s, I started doing the regular things, listening to Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson and all the things, and really Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, like that really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And then I went really deep into a spiritual journey and an awakening, for the decade prior to that. But at the end of 2020, which oddly did not have anything to do with what was happening in the collective in 2020, I had my own personal, completely separate awakening, regarding like relational dynamics and trauma, and recognizing at 40 years old, so this was about 4 years ago, at 40 years old, I had not been in my body for the entirety of the 4 decades previous. And that probably sounds sort of bizarre and bonkers. And a lot of people are like, what do you mean you weren't in your body? Well, I did everything out here, like out in the world. So for the first, 3 decades of my life, that was very normal as far as, what people do. So just doing life and being busy and overcompensating in all the ways, and just really running my personality, running the programs. Had no idea that I was essentially like living in a box and just doing life, and realized that many years later was like, oh my goodness, like what is even, who am I even? And did that whole awakening. But at 40, what I realized is even the healing that I had been doing was mostly out of my body. Like I was totally disconnected to my physical body, to my actual trauma that was being held in my body, to really being deeply connected. And so like all of the work that I was doing, which was tremendous work, but it was like out here in like brain land and like woo-woo land and like spirit world, which is amazing, but without connecting it to my body, it did not sink in. So like I just found myself in this very traumatic relationship and in this dynamic that just all of a sudden exploded our lives, because spirit was like, hey, wake up, hey, wake up, hey, wake up. And I didn't listen. And so then they're like, okay, let me help you. And essentially dumped the entire box of our life. And I found myself in a really, really difficult position, had a young daughter, and just really literally had to start over. And it was so deeply traumatic, but also opened up the most profound healing and recognizing how much trauma I was still carrying. I was basically spiritually bypassing it all, like just kind of doing the thing on the outside, but I didn't know that. Like I was doing the things, I just didn't realize I wasn't doing them in my body. Like I didn't know better. And so, when somebody would say, feel this in your body, like I thought I was doing it, didn't really realize I wasn't. It's like my brain was just so powerful that I just was able to do all the things without actually doing them. So I go through this massive life transition, was basically forced into my body, into the trauma, and recognize, oh my gosh, my body has been storing this trauma for literally decades. I had deep childhood trauma that I had healed in many, regular therapy, in many, spiritual ways, even body talk, which is so powerful and wonderful, but disconnected from my body, it didn't sink in. And so finally was like forced into that healing and surrendered in such a way that I had never before recognized how many like control dynamics and patterns of codependence I was still running. And essentially it just really woke me up to like, oh my gosh, like I thought I was doing the thing, but I wasn't doing the thing. It was tremendously painful and just one of the most wonderful healing things I've ever been through.
I love this so much. And there's so many pieces. I've been taking notes as you're talking. There's so many pieces I want to highlight here for listeners and to go deeper with you. First, that this happened at 2020, which, a lot of people have a lot of stories about what 2020 was about, but essentially what 2020 was really about was awakening us all to the next level of whatever we needed to see. And so I love how that came in so beautifully at that timeline. And also that it happened at 40, which is I just love this so much because we just keep learning and growing and it doesn't stop. And, in the traditional model,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, oh yeah, by your 40s, you have it figured out. It's like we are ever learning ourselves. We're ever growing. So I love this. And also love that you talked about that it was a relationship trauma that really led to this major awakening. And there's so much out there that says, stay away from this, that, and the other thing, not recognizing that these relationships, even when they are, perfectly flawed, can deliver to us our next level that we need to see within ourselves that we just couldn't see before then. That's why it's an awakening, right? It's like, I couldn't see it
Mm-hmm.
before, but now I can. And this relationship was actually giving you the gift that opened that. I just love that reminder that even our most difficult relationships, and maybe even especially our most difficult,
Especially.
yes, our most difficult relationships can gift us these incredible awakenings. And what I'm hearing is that you came home to yourself. Can you tell us a little bit, like, can you give us an example of how, like, I thought I was in my body doing the things, but I wasn't. And now when I do the things, what's your experience? Can you make it more tangible for us so we can
Yeah.
go there with you? Yeah.
Yeah. And it is kind of hard to wrap your brain around. And like what I really want to also really pinpoint is I was doing all the things. Like I really was. Like I knew all the things. I was totally awake. I was doing all the things. Like I would have told you, and probably did, told to many people, like, oh, like I'm totally awake. I'm totally healed. Like I'm like, and I would have looked that way, right? I thought that I would have looked that way, but what I was missing was the embodiment, like the groundedness of like having it in my body. So it was more like up here, like out over my head. And when I would connect with spirit, it would be out there. Like if I'm connecting with my team, it was like out of my body rather than like now when I connect with my team, I can feel the weight of gravity in my body. I can feel my feet on the floor. I feel my heart space. I feel like I notice my peripheral vision and I tune in with my body. Like the thing that I was lacking was nervous system healing. So what that means is my trauma was literally locking me out of my body. So I was almost fully functioning inside of my brain and inside of a spiritual concept instead of having it embodied. So, like, for example, when I would do some of the amazing practices that we use, like as part of the superpowers guide. I don't even know what we call it now, but there's a part called, where you feel the feelings in your body, like you literally feel the sensations. And with help, I could sort of do that. Like I could trace, okay, here I have this feeling in my gut, or I have this pain in my shoulder. But what I didn't recognize is most of my body actually felt blank. So like if I tuned into my heart space, like it wouldn't actually be a feeling more than just like it's blank space, or I don't know what I'm feeling, or I would just get kicked right back out into my brain and start thinking about like my grocery list, or something else. It was all outside of my body. And the biggest piece is just it wasn't grounded down, like it didn't have weight. And like it's really hard to think of actual examples, but it's like when I'm connecting with my team and doing my practices now, I do it from within my body rather than like projecting it out with my brain power in my head. And I'm feeling my feet, and I'm connecting in my heart space, and I'm connecting into my gut brain, and really being available for the communication and the signals happening within my body, versus like just doing the practices like, oh, here's what we do. Like when I'm tapping cortices, oh, I just tap cortices. Now I can actually feel what's
Yeah.
happening in my body while I'm tapping cortices.
Yes, beautiful. No, that's so well stated. And we're programmed to do exactly this, right? We're programmed to live up in our heads and to externalize everything. That is the program in the third and fourth dimensional matrix. So the fact that this relationship catapulted you to realize, oh, wait, I'm living in a program while doing all these amazing things. I now need to anchor this into my body, because that's the key. The body is the key, right? We have to actualize it through the body. So I love that you had this experience. It's so powerful. And how has that shifted the work you do with your clients? How has that shifted your life now that you're really able to, instead of that blank space, but really feel your body and feel what's happening inside of you? Tell us a little bit about how that's rippled into your life.
Oh my goddess, it has changed. I mean, like I can't even explain to you how fundamentally it's changed. And um, essentially, I went from autopilot, like doing everything on autopilot, just doing it. So I make breakfast, and I do this, and I do my practices, and I meditate, and I, take my daughter somewhere. Like everything was just on autopilot. Like I wasn't necessarily present in my body for it. So like I went from being on autopilot, like doing the things just to do the things, to like actually being here, like being here. So if I'm sitting and eating, I'm just really like enjoying my food and just in the present moment and sitting in the sun with the sun on my face. And so like it has literally completely changed everything. So the way that I started working with clients many years ago was in from a brain space. So I'm a CDFA, certified divorce financial analyst. I have a financial background. That was all like program wounded career, where I was all in my head and completely locked off. And so I used to help people through the holistic divorce process. It still included healing. It still included feelings and things and doing it in a more peaceful way, but it was very still much brain based. And it was very much still what it was certainly helpful. But what now my practice looks like, because what I've recognized over the last several years is, oh my gosh, like what people are actually bringing when they're fighting about the house or fighting about the parenting plan or talking about the wounds, what they're bringing is a traumatic relational dynamic with unbalanced nervous systems and disembodied, dysregulated nervous systems. So what they actually need more than, financial help or talking about logistics of a parenting plan is, first, they need to be in their bodies. They need nervous system regulation. They
Yes.
need to understand that trauma is stored in your body, and whatever you think your partner, spouse, kids, whatever life is doing that is like making you angry or anxious or sad, whatever, that's literally parts of yourself running up a flag saying, hey, I need attention, I need help. So rather than going through the divorce separation process, just figuring out the logistics and doing the thing, even when I was doing it in a peaceful way and it was healing, what we do now is tremendous. Like I have people now staying together because they've recognized like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, we were just trapped in a trauma loop, passing pain back and forth. And it has been, I mean, I don't even know how to explain the transformation of what happens now when I use my spiritual tools. And so with myself and with clients, when we use these spiritual tools that we know, and when we go through the process, adding the nervous system trauma body piece, it opens up every locked gate. And it's the purpose of everything. Like every fight you've ever had, every emotion you've ever had was the purpose of some old thing being wanting to be seen and held and just felt, because we locked it off as children, or we locked it off even as adults. And it's simply just wanting attention and space to be processed. So it fundamentally changes life, like period. I have people going, oh my gosh, like this is life changing. Yes, it is.
Love it. Every emotion, I'm just highlighting this that you just said, every emotion has a purpose and simply needs attention. And the fact that you're watching couples who thought like, oh, we're done, we're over this, recognizing, wait a second, we just got stuck in a loop and we can actually get off and get out of this timeline loop. We can actually break through this trauma is so huge. And I really believe, Anna, is such deeply healing work for the collective, because if you look at the programming in the matrix, it's all about new, like, oh, if it's not working, go get the new partner. Like, there's just a lot of distorted and dysfunctional relationship dynamics that are very much supported and sort of glamorized in the matrix. And so the fact that when humans are willing to do this deeper work, they can actually reconnect to that love and that union is so powerful. And I would think is so rewarding for you to witness and experience with them.
Mm-hmm. It's truly amazing to watch people. Like, I mean, just this last week, I had a family who were having a really hard time with a co-parenting arrangement and not able to have any sort of dynamic where they could pass off their daughter in a healthy way, like back and forth, like with visitations. And it was just literally stalled the whole thing. And it literally took one 30-minute phone conversation for me to explain how trauma was held in the body, how like, hey, there's part of you, like, can you feel that part of you really needs to be heard here? Like, do you notice how you keep asking them to hear you? Like, what part of you really is like demanding to be heard? Like, think back to your childhood, whatever or this part. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's my, it's my 9-year-old. Oh my gosh. And like just instant connection of, oh my gosh, this is not about now. This is not about this. And it almost never is. Like literally almost never is it about right now and
Agreed.
this. And so when people understand that, it brings so much grace and love. And oh my gosh, the thing that really transformed for me, going back to your last question, is what I'm recognizing is it brought me such grace for myself. Whereas before, if I was, let's say really frustrated with my daughter, or if I was, really activated by something, or just caught in this trauma loop, or, let's say I'm really judgmental, because that tended to be one of my like control personality, well, not even personality, trauma traits, really. I mean, it's what I grew up doing, what my nervous
Yes.
system did to be safe. And so when I recognized that all of these pieces and parts of me were simply innocent pieces that needed attention and love, it changes the game. It changes how you relate to yourself. It changes how you relate to your partner, who you may at the current moment be literally hating. Like, it changes everything when you recognize, oh, this is simply a wounded part of me. And that's simply a wounded part of, him or her. Oh my gosh, like we're just like children, like throwing dirt at each other, like kicking each other's shins. Like, oh my gosh, let's scoop up our little people and love them.
Oh, and then we healed the world, like
Truly.
literally, literally, if everyone got this, and you said some really powerful pieces here about like it's almost never, And I would say it's never about what you think the argument is about, right? It's always about these fragmented, wounded aspects of self. And if we could get that and remind ourselves of that and have beautiful healers such as yourself doing this kind of work to support couples and families, you have a completely different landscape of humanity, of relationship. None of the things that we ever think that we're mad about are really what it's about. It's really about a deeper wound. And that in itself, Anna, is life-changing to sit with, right? Anytime I'm triggered, it's not ever really about what I think it's about. This person did this, or they said this, or they acted like this. It's not about that. It's about some part of me is hurting and needs my love.
Yeah.
Whew.
And it's very simple. And what I recognize with the body piece is you often don't even have to know what piece it was. Like you can literally just be in the body with
Yes.
it and it will show you what's there. So like it is so simple as literally like, so let's say, oh my gosh, my partner did this or my kid did this. I'm so angry. Stop and feel what's happening in your body. Oh my gosh, I have this like lump of heat in my belly. Okay, let's breathe into that and let's give that space attention and let's be present for it and just breathe and feel your feet on the ground and put your hand on your heart. Like if everyone would do that when they are triggered, is simply go in instead of go out, it would fundamentally change everything everywhere all at once.
Oh, I so agree 1,000,000%. And when you talk about this broad and brings more grace to yourself, that is such a powerful gift to give yourself, right? To be able to recognize my body is an advanced technology. It knows what it's doing. If I can just,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, go within and be fully present with what is there, that opens so much grace, so much love. It connects you back to who you really are. So this piece that you're talking about is so important for our ascension, aka becoming who we really are on earth in form. If it's all out there, we're not actually doing it. We have to bring it into the body and work with the body. So this is so beautiful and such a beautiful conversation. When you look at your relationship dynamics now with your daughter, with people in your life, with your clients, tell me a little bit about, because I think this is the big piece that I hear people say to me, like, I just can't, I just forget, I can't get there. I get too activated. I'm not able to, to stop in that moment. Are there any tips you could give them for how to like bring themselves back and also not beat themselves up for not doing it, quote unquote, perfectly? But that's the big thing that people get stuck on. They're just like, well,
Yes.
I forgot, and then they let it go. So yeah, can you speak to that a little bit?
Um, I'll do this in two parts. The first is a Matt Kahn phrase, and I think it's actually one of his books is, oh my gosh, now I'm blanking, but it's basically, love whatever arises. I think that's what his book is. So like love whatever's there. So if here you are, okay, here I am yelling at my daughter and being upset at myself for yelling at my daughter. Love the part of you, like start at the outside. So, okay, I don't have love for the part of me yelling at my daughter. I can't get there yet. Okay, let me love the part of myself or even witness the part of myself that is judging the part of me that is yelling at my daughter. So start at the outside and move in. So like, okay, here I am feeling this way. This is one of Matt Kahn's, um, practices. Here I am feeling this way. Here I am judging myself for yelling at my daughter. Okay, let me just start there. Let me feel that on my body. So it's literally just starting wherever you are and trying to bring love or grace into that situation. And when you're in the moment and it's so difficult, or if you're forgetting, it's sort of like a game, like how fast can I catch myself? Like, you can make it fun, like get curious, like, oh, how fast can I catch myself getting triggered and going out instead of going in, like, ooh, okay, that was fast. Like I just totally, you know, cussed at that driver or just like snapped at my partner and totally didn't realize it until like 10 minutes later. You can sort of make it fun, but like sometimes it really is traumatic and it really is deeply painful. And we're like laying on the bathroom floor crying and like screaming at someone or whatever the situation is, just like, oh, this is too hard. I can't do this. Like I can't believe what they did to me. The moment you can notice that there is part of you here having that experience, and there's another part of you, your wisest self. You can call in your highest self. If you can't get there, call in, source, your team, whatever resonates, to come and be there with you. Like, I can't separate from this. Like, I'm too in it. Just recognizing simply that, okay, part of me is hurting, and trying to simply just be where you are without getting caught up in the story. So without your mind going, I can't believe they did this thing. Like, oh, wait a minute. Part of me is feeling sad. Part of me is feeling hurt. Part of me is feeling whatever, and getting into your body. And if you're forgetting, you need probably nervous system work, which some of it's really simple. Like, we were talking about cortices earlier, and there's so many, like, I just learned about helical breathing, which is super fun. Like, there's all kinds of really simple nervous system practices that you can start doing that literally build more space in your body and give you more space between the trigger and the reaction. So like, if you find yourself like just hauling off and yelling, or hauling off and like slamming doors and just like, blah, like instant reactions, you need more space in your system, more space in your body. So you want to start with like just basic nervous system healing. And from there, you will just to practice, just like anything else, from there, you will build more space and time in your system.
So beautiful, Anna. Thank you so much for sharing that and giving us some examples that listeners can work with. And that actually kind of segues really beautifully into our conversation about the golden age. Of course, we know that this awakening journey that we're on is an invitation and is step by step leading us to experience the golden age in our current reality for brief or longer moments, and also at some point for the collective to experience a golden age. Can you talk a little bit about what are some of your top tips for living in that golden age frequency, which definitely feels like nervous system regulation, right? And some of the things that you're doing, you've kind of already touched on that, but if you want to expand on that, some of the things you're doing to experience your own personal golden age now that you also recommend listeners who resonate with try out as well.
Yeah. So my whole thing that I want to fundamentally help people get, and what I practice as much as possible, is connecting and returning to three things. So connecting to your body, connecting to source, connecting to Gaia. So any time you can do a practice or take a moment that combines two or three of those things, it's like win-win-win. So for example, sitting outside with your bare feet on the ground and feeling what's happening with your body while connecting to higher wisdom. Like, so, I mean, that literally might be as simple as taking 3 minutes and sitting with your feet in the grass and just feeling the feeling of the earth connecting to your feet, feeling the sun on your face, maybe placing your hand on your heart and just saying, hello, body, and then calling in your higher wisdom, just calling in source, feeling that beautiful sun beaming down on your face. Like, it's just the intention. So I'm going to go outside, connect with my body, connect with source, connect with Gaia, just the intention. Or like, if you're eating food and you bless it first, or say a thank you, a gratitude for the farmers or Gaia for growing it, and you're really tasting it and really enjoying it. Like, you are in your body, you're connected to source, you're connected to Gaia. Like, this can be very, very simple. So just being present, blessing your water and then drinking it and feeling it as it goes like into your body. Like, that's connecting with source, connecting with Gaia, connecting with your body. And, all the way up to what we talked about before, things like cortices and nervous system healing, doing things that get you back into your body. If you were at all like me, or at all like, a massive part of the population, like, you're still in autopilot much of the time. And if you find yourself that way, the more you can do to balance and regulate your nervous system is infinitely beneficial. And even just sitting outside connected to a tree and connected to the grass will regulate your nervous system. So it is so simple. You don't have to know anything. You don't even have to necessarily do anything, but just spending as much possible time outside, connected to nature, connecting to source, doing the things that really have a high payoff, like the things I talked about, just like being outside bare feet, doing a prayer, connecting with your heart space, just really simple, intentional practices.
Mm. I had this vision as you were sharing that of just, millions of people outside,
Mm.
their bare feet on the ground, feeling the sun on their face, reciting a prayer or just breathing deeply. Like that is the most beautiful vision for our golden age. And I'm going to hold that vision with me, Anna, and carry that from this episode today because wow, what a powerful like healing. And when you talked about the three, what I heard was like the three paths to embodiment, which is like through the body, source, and Gaia, otherwise known as Earth. For those of you that may be like, Gaia, what? What are you talking about? That's the Earth. I love this very simple exercise that you've given that regulates the nervous system and allows you to connect on all three levels. So I'm just holding that vision for our Earth, for the collective. May we all do this with ease and grace. Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing all of your wisdom and gifts. And thank you for the beautiful work that you're doing to support your own embodiment, ascension, enlightenment, and the work that you're doing to assist others. How can people connect with you? What's the best way if they want to know more, if they want to connect with you further? What's the best way for people to reach you?
I do have my website, which is annademouchet.com, but the most up to date and like current information where you will actually get helpful information all the time is my YouTube channel. So it's Somatic Self Love, and we'll put the links for that. But Somatic Self Love, and on there, there's an intro to somatic healing and self love where I go. It's a workshop where I go through talking about trauma in the body and connecting with your body and relational dynamics, and it is mind-blowing. If any of the things aren't just common nature that I've been talking about that you're like, oh yeah, I've already done that, I'm totally doing that, if that is not you, go watch this because it was I did it about a year and a half ago, and it was literally like a conglomeration of all the things that I wanted to make sure people knew. And I have many guided practices, from 3-minute long ones to like an hour long, just beautiful somatic healing practices, just updates I'm regularly posting. So I would say go to Somatic Self Love and hit subscribe. Then you will get notified as I post new videos and shares, but there's all kinds of things up there that are nervous system healing practices, spiritual somatic things, updates. It's the most resourceful place, I would say.
Incredible. What an amazing resource that is right at people's fingertips. They can easily go to. Perfect. So go to YouTube, Somatic Self-Love, folks, to check out these videos and connect further with Anna. Anna, thank you again for being here. It's so fun. After all the years of working together, we get to do this. So thank you again for bringing your wisdom and gifts. And we'll go ahead and close out this episode. Thank you so much to all of you listening today and being here with us on this awakening journey. Every single day gives you the opportunity to awaken more deeply into who you really are. So take those opportunities, utilize the resources we've talked about today on this podcast, and allow yourself to experience more of your golden age in the here and now. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christian Strang, and this has been Awakening, the podcast.